be recorded.
Everyone's in place, and it's 9:32 this morning. We welcome our guests. And before we get started, I have to reminder, I believe we did the proclamation for last meeting for Women's Resources, with October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Monroe County. And today at 5 o'clock in Courthouse Square, there will be a candlelight vigil that's going to be sponsored and participation by the community and Women's Resources. So I want to make sure people were aware of that, especially as we start off with our moment of silence. Be a good time for us to reflect on some of these issues. It will be followed by the pledge at that point. And now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, first on the agenda today, corrections to the duplicate. We have Cindy Tribal with us, our chief assessor.
2,060 in addition. And subtractions are 3,818,490 for a minus 3,816,430. The reason for such a large subtraction is because of our tradition in Hamilton Township exemption. They built a convention center that was valued over $3 million.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
That's under discussion. Cindy, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. What do you have to do later this, actually, the middle of next month that helps in the budgeting?
Interim. So we'll have an interim addition. We do interims every month, and we add those to the tax roll. So for every 100,000 that comes off, normally 100,000 will be back.
So in early November, Cindy will certify the assessed values for the entire county. That means that if the assessed values of all the property in Monroe County was $46 billion last year, next year it might be $46.5 billion, or it might be $45.5 billion, but it all depends on what has happened with the properties in the county from last year to this year. And that will influence the millage rates of all the taxing municipalities.
Right. The more people that go on the Clean Green programs, the more your assessment comes down, the more veterans, they come off the tax roll, purchase, come off. And we're also out there picking up additions, new homes, new businesses, and they go on. And then we certify November 15th, so that all the taxing bodies can fix their budget for their millage, figure out what their millage will be based on the total assessment.
So the corrections to the duplicate that Cindy reports every month, plus the interims that are picked up, give her an idea of where we are at any one point in time. But there's only one point in time in early November when the number gets certified for the ensuing year. Thank you. I move we accept the corrections to the duplicate.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Public comment, agenda items only. Okay, hearing none, seeing none. Moving forward, old business. I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the 10/5/2022 Commissioners meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Under old business, number 2, do your motion to amend motion of M 2022-82 to reflect the change in the purchase price to $16,351.70 for a Kubota zero-turn mower for the jail.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have a proclam, I guess a certificate for Jacob Possinger. He's earned his Eagle Scout and will be presented that down the road.
I mean, we accept that certificate.
Second.
Any discussion? One of us will be attending that. Always very nice. Okay, motion to accept the certificate for Jacob Possinger.
Did that.
We
And
did
first and second, all in favor?
that.
Aye.
Opposed? New business, personnel, number 1. Motion to approve the actions listed in our personnel, number 1, items A and B.
So moved.
Second.
We have first and second, any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 2, electronic financial transactions ratified. Do I hear a motion to approve the actions listed in number 2, items A, B, and C?
So moved.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Hearing none, seeing, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 3, travel authorizations. Do I hear a motion to approve the actions listed in item 3, item A?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Number 4, Monroe County Children and Youth Services. We have a motion to approve the actions listed in number 4, items A and B.
So moved. A second.
Okay, we first and second, any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Number 5, Commissioner's Office. Do I hear a motion to approve the actions listed in number 5, items A through H?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Number 6, District Attorney's Office. Do I hear a motion to approve the actions listed in number 6, item A?
So moved.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, number 7, capital outlay purchases. Do I have a motion, hear a motion to approve the actions listed in number 7, items A and B?
So moved.
Second.
First and second, any discussion?
Can you just tell us what, like, how many big items is that?
No, for
It's right here, it's $437.80
Yeah.
and $5,042.48.
Okay.
but there was no large items. There was a couple of chairs for the sheriffs, big and tall, handle their gun belts and so on.
Okay,
Okay.
There was a gun for a detective. That was the $437.
$7, yeah, a new hire. No, a new hire? Sort of new.
Somebody has to go for training and needs a weapon.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, any miscellaneous?
I have none.
I have none.
Okay, public comment.
Well,
Okay, before Mr. Kubica, sorry, I just want to thank you for attending our prison board meeting at our last regular meeting where all the prison board was able to hear concerns and talk about some of the issues and have an informed presentation at the same time, which was very helpful. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I was gonna open by thanking you guys. I don't know what happened after that meeting behind the door, executive stuff. Seems like there might have been some movement because we did do 2 searches after that, like 2 days back to back. We searched that, we searched Delta, which is good. Deputy Warden came to briefing and kind of gave us some information about the drugs that are coming in the jail. These guys can tell you that hasn't happened in years. So I don't know if maybe it's something was said. I don't know exactly what happened. But, those are good things. I appreciate that. You guys appreciate that. So same thing. Thanks for that if you guys had a hand in it. That being said, at the prison board, I had that couple minutes to speak real quick. Spoke about these missing items from the kitchen. Gary Huddle tried to say it's a security issue. He's not going to open the door to talk about it. So you guys might have some information behind the scenes that maybe you guys could share with me after the meeting, maybe not in public form, maybe through email, maybe something. Because you can ask these guys. I didn't want to bring 20 people here like we have been because you see it gets a little hectic, emotions start flying, everybody starts talking. Not productive. Hasn't been going anywhere. So it's probably better to do it like this. But I can tell you, with him saying that those items are accounted for, we still are going to work every day, not knowing what that means. Because they're, on all intended purposes on our end, they have not been accounted for, they have not been found. Nobody knows where these flat top choppers are missing are. We're looking for something just to know where they are. What is his assertion as far as where these things are and how are they accounted for? Because it just feels not safe to us that we still haven't searched the rest of the jail. There's still 6 or 7 units we haven't searched. He's got some information that these things are secure. He knows where they are. I don't know, maybe you guys can give me some type of reason why we shouldn't have that shared with us so we know going into work every day is safe. Because none of that's being shared with us. Quite frankly, it just sounds like somebody trying to sweep something under the rug. Sounds like him trying to tell you guys they're accounted for, just so this goes away. Otherwise, I don't see why it would be so hard to just say, hey guys, they ended up in the garbage. Hey guys, a kitchen worker took them home. Hey guys, they actually never were missing. They were in the dry storage room. I don't see what the difficulty is just telling us. Still looking for something that assures us those things are found. COVID, I know we talked about COVID. I gave Commissioner Christie a packet with the most recent updates from the CDC. We talked about it at the prison board. It was the prison board's assertion that whatever the CDC's recommendations are for COVIDs in correctional facilities, the prison board's recommendation to the warden to remain at the higher, more restrictive protocols.
What we said is that we were going to keep our current protocols in place. There have been modifications to the CDC that was dated May 3rd of 2022. And that is, sure, I think you know them.
I don't. The protocols that I gave you, that I printed off the line, are the most recent protocols.
Correct.
that I can
And
find
since
anywhere.
then, Prime Care and the Department of Corrections and Department of Health have brought that time down to 7 days. That's why we're at the 7-day period as opposed to the 10-day period of what they said.
I can tell you for 100% fact, your words at the prison board meeting were, it is the prison board's recommendation and direction to the warden, whatever the CDC's protocols are, to remain with the more restrictive.
And so what I did was that I did my homework from
I'm
that.
just saying that's what was said there.
Correct.
So I'm
And I-
asking now.
What I'm saying is that I did my homework with that, and that's where we have come, Prime Care, Department of Health, Department of Corrections, have all come together and said that the 7-day is what we're doing.
It is. And they
Okay.
all say at the end of the 7 days, the inmates should be tested.
It all depends on whether they have signs or symptoms.
Can we get a copy of that in writing, sir? Because I've been asking for it, we can't get it. Because even if the inmates are actually COVID positive, an inmate tests for COVID today positive, it's not a 7-day quarantine, they're doing 6 days. I showed you guys that, they're doing 6. Because if an inmate comes into the facility tonight at 11:30 p.m. and he's sick as a dog and he gets tested and he has COVID,
Right.
that 30 minutes until midnight, they're counting as day 1. And then they just set the time frame. 6 days later, he comes off of COVID quarantine with no test. Showed you guys the document with the dates on. So if we're going 7 days, it's 7 days, but it's also 7 days with the test, because then what happens at the end of that 6 days, is the inmate is removed from the COVID quarantine with no test. I know there's a protocol out there when you're dealing with staff shortages, you're dealing with housing facility shortages, you're dealing with less lethal variants of COVID. It is reducible to 7 days. That is an option, but it has a test out option. That's what it's called. They test out at 7 days. Gary Heidel sat in the prison board meeting and said, we will be testing inmates. I don't know why we're not. They should be being tested again. That's what he said in that prison board meeting. And they're not being tested.
The quarantine and isolation period was 10 days and moved to 7 days if no symptoms were present. Okay?
What if they test positive for COVID with symptoms? What are we doing?
Then you go, if you test positive with symptoms, then you are isolated for 7 days.
I
Okay?
just said
If
it's
you,
7 days with no symptoms.
you can be really come out of it if there are no symptoms.
What if they still have symptoms?
Then they continue their quarantine.
That's not what's happening. I work F unit. I had 8 people on quarantine. I had 2 girls test positive for COVID. I won't give their names in public forum. I can give you names. You can ask about it. They were in 3 cell on F unit. They both still had symptoms. Were sick as a dog. Came off on day 6. I refused to take them off of COVID quarantine because they weren't tested. They came off sick as a dog, still having symptoms, still being given medication from medical for their symptoms. We're not tested. With all this COVID stuff, let me just read something for you from WebMD from 2022 from August. People who get reinfected with the virus that caused COVID-19 have more serious health risks with each round of reinfection. That's as of a recent study in 2022, a large national study. Every time you get COVID, you have more of a chance of having serious effects. Researchers saw worse health effects during active infection, but some symptoms that lasted more than 6 months, suggesting a direct link between reinfection and long COVID. Reinfection adds or contributes to additional health risks. It's not totally benign, and people need to try to avoid being reinfected. The risks remain whether or not people are even fully vaccinated. In some cases, people might have been infected earlier with the Delta strain. Now they are exposed to a Omicron or subvariant, which may be better evading the vaccine protection. It's possible that the first infection weakens some organ systems, made people more vulnerable to health effects as they get a second or third infection. There's a lot of variables at play, but it is clear that reinfections contribute to additional health risks and they need to be avoided.
And that's why, the
guys-
additional updated vaccine is key to everybody to get
That's
put forth.
That's from a national study that just said, while I read it out loud, each reinfection adds to your risk of serious health effects, whether you're vaccinated or not, it says.
Correct.
Right? So my question is, it's clear that the reinfections cause worse health effects, meaning you have a higher chance of a heart attack, higher chance of a stroke, higher chance of a blood clot, higher chance of long COVID that never recovers or lasts a year. Each time you get reinfected, that chance goes up, right? How often does the general public catch COVID? How often are they exposed to it versus us who work directly on units with COVID? By all intended metrics and how you measure, I'm going to catch COVID more often than you guys will from the public because I'm directly touching people that have COVID and working with them. I've had it 3 times in the last year and a half. That means my chance of developing a serious result is much higher than the general public. So why are we not taking steps to reduce that risk? And when I say that, CDC guidelines I give you mention that the COVID quarantine people should not be housed with regular inmates, but they are because of our space. We don't have another building to just send these people to. Why are we not taking the measures we can with putting glass and tray passes in those cells? It's a very simple measure that at least takes a little bit off of the chances of us catching COVID 5, 6, 7 times in 2 years and having a heart attack or stroke. It's very simple. And it's in the guidelines that air exchanges between COVID cells and non-COVID areas are supposed to be negative pressured, so no air comes out of the COVID quarantine area into the cohort area of people that don't have COVID. It's in the guidelines. That's almost impossible for us to do.
It isn't.
Not impossible, because we have J unit, which is the medical unit, and no COVID people at the foot there. The last 2 rounds we've had COVID, they just get left on units. Why are we not utilizing that unit?
Is it a staffing issue?
So we're gonna,
No, I'm just asking. I
it
don't
could
know.
potentially be, but you post for overtime and you have an officer work J unit, which they're refusing to do because Warden Heidel has openly said, I will not pay for that. I cannot afford to pay for that. So what we're saying is, for the little bit of amount of money it costs to put him on J unit for the day, we're willing to risk additional negative outcomes to 100 officers and 400 inmates by spreading COVID.
But if you have one person, then you have to, and put them in jail. Pardon me?
You need 3 people,
You need,
3 officers, 1 for each shift.
correct.
So for 3 officers at their pay rate, we would rather expose 100 officers and continue to spread, and we would rather expose all the inmates on a unit and risk those serious health effects that you guys don't have to deal with, that I have to go into the units and handle these people. These are steps that I cannot wrap my head around on why we're not taking this. I can't, it literally comes down to dollars about putting somebody on J unit. It comes down to, I can't understand why are we not putting the glass and tray passes on the cell doors? We've done it to some units. When I started there, no unit had glass and tray passes. Not a single one, 18 years ago, had glass and tray passes. And then RHU got glass and tray passes. And then B unit got glass and tray passes. And A unit had a riot, and we put glass and tray passes. And then every so often we get an inmate who's a complete jerk, who's always throwing feces out or just acting up like Elder or somebody. And then we put glass and tray pass on a cell on I unit. So we're slowly putting glass and tray passes for some reasons, but we're not doing it to ensure the officer's health and safety. And to take the best steps that we can to ensure we're getting as close to adhering to those CDC guidelines as we possibly can. Because obviously housing size and jail size is a restriction that we have no way around unless we magically build a new jail, which isn't happening. So there's things that we can very feasibly be doing that still are not occurring.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Booth. We will also be coordinating some conversation with prosecutors. All right, anybody else? Yes,
His concern, you should pass on to the prison board.
correct. And I did mention that right before we started that, I thanked Mr. Kubrick for speaking to the prison board, which he did last Tuesday.
Prison board is very well aware of all these concerns. You have 3 of them here, you have another one here, you have another one here. So
Yes.
5
My only point is that they're the ones that are
Officially.
ultimately responsible.
I agree, 5 of them are here.
To
Right,
take
right.
action,
You pass on to the prison
out of,
board.
in a prison board setting with, what, that's following protocol.
I get it, and as we wait another month, we wait another month, we
No,
wait
well-
another month.
No.
No, no.
My
I get
point is, you talked about potential for liability. And those are the people by law in that forum who are required to set policy and guidelines, not the commissioners. While the commissioners sit on that board, prison board has the obligation to policies and procedures. So I just wanted to
Yeah, I
know
totally
that you
know.
pass this on. Sure.
While we're waiting for policies and procedures, we're being exposed to COVID every day while there's steps that could have been taken 2 years ago.
I
Thank you.
understand what you're saying, but that has to be done by the prison board.
Correct. Thank you,
And
Mr.
then I'm
Kubrick.
asking, can I get some type of confirmation today that I will receive some type of follow-up on these weapons? Because Gary Heidel in the Times News article, online with Channel 13 News, all over the place, when he's saying these things are accounted for and he's not sharing information, it is 100% a false statement. It's these guys can tell you we're still working at jail, and the kitchen staff will tell you those things are still missing. Nobody knows where they are.
Mr. Kubrick, I understand what you're saying, but they should pass that on to the warden.
It was, we talked about it.
Okay, but then the prison board is responsible for the warden. So
That's
they
what I'm
hire,
asking.
fire, and discipline.
I'm not asking for them to be hired or fired, I'm asking for, can we take the proper steps to make sure these weapons don't end up in somebody's neck? Can we, if they have been found, or if we do know where they are, can I get some type of assurance today that we will share with you outside the public forum where these things are, or where they went missing? Because there's no justification that a warden would withhold that information from his line staff. That doesn't make any sense. If a knife goes up, I'm saying a knife, a flat top chopper, a gun, a knife, drugs. You said another overdose last night. This is a continual thing.
They have to report this to the warden. The other members of the prison board that are here, I hesitate to tell them what their function is because I'm not the prison board solicitor. But they should take what you're saying since they happen to be here and make certain that.
I'm sure they've already been made aware by the warden where these items are quote unquote accounted for. And if they have, can that be shared with us? If they haven't been shared by the warden, what accounted for means, then I'm asking at the prison board like I did, I'm asking again to actually inquire into that while there's a weapon missing in the jail, You can't stand by idly and take the warden's statement of it's accounted for and just say, oh, cool, everything's fine, it's accounted for. There has to be research done into that to make assurances for us that I don't end up with a weapon in my neck. If it hasn't been done, can that be done? And can the line staff just be told, these things are here, and that's why you guys are safe? That's what I'm asking. And I get that assurance after this meeting, that I will get some type of response where these weapons are, that we know they're accounted
They,
for. I know you can, I'm asking them.
Well, but this is our solicitor. He is our expert in those
He's a
areas.
legal expert, but why,
Yeah.
legal has nothing to do with you guys being able to say, hey, we spoke to the warden, and we know these weapons are in the garbage. We know a staff member
let's say
doesn't-
something happens as a consequence of the concern that you have. And somebody sues the county. Appropriate defendant is the prison board because they're responsible. Whatever they do, they can't act by themselves, separate from the prison board with respect to policies, rules, and regulations.
I'm not asking for policy, rules, regulations.
Well, you're
I'm
asking
saying
them to
To
give
say,
you
hey, we know these weapons are found and they were in the garbage, you guys are safe.
you're
That's
asking
not a
them,
policy, that's not a procedure, that's not a law. That's good common sense that you guys are the ones working these units that have violence on them. We found these weapons, they were here. We do it all the time when we go searching for drugs, or if somebody sends something back from the kitchen to Delta and we go do a search. When we find that item, we all get told at the end of the search, hey, we found what we were looking for. The Suboxone was in cell 13, the tattoo gun was in cell 26, the needles were in cell 32. We always get that information. With these weapons that are missing from the kitchen, is the only time in my time there, 18 years, we have never been told, hey, everything's okay, we found the items. So
I understand. I don't think we're going to agree. I'll give you an example.
well, what is your reasoning of why they can't tell me where these things are?
Why
What can
can't
happen with liability if somebody
Because-
gets stabbed?
they?
Why can't they say, hey, Mr. Kulik, we talked to the warden, he assured us to look at the cameras, those things got thrown in the garbage on July 2nd.
Because they're commissioners that don't run the prison. The prison board does. Let me give you an example.
Prison board.
Fine. Let me give you an example.
So if I show up to the next prison board, I can ask that question and get an answer?
Let me tell you what my opinion is. You may or may not agree. But let's say you went to the sheriff, who's behind you, went over to his office, you told him all this. Okay? He could pass on the information, but he can't act by himself.
He can't share information by himself?
Pardon?
He can't share information?
If it's information that's to come from the correctional facility, he doesn't run the correctional facility. They don't run.
I'm not asking him to run it. If he knows from the warden, these weapons were in the garbage on July 2nd, he can't share that with me? What legally stops him from sharing that information?
No, you're asking them, I believe.
I'm
to give
asking
you-
everybody who's on the prison board, if they have been told where these weapons are, what stops them, what prevents them from sharing that with us?
No, that's not what you said.
That's what I'm asking right now.
That's what he's asking 100%.
100%.
We just wanted to be notified if the items that were claimed to be in account for, if they are, and can you please tell us that the threat is no longer present? That's all it is. We're not asking for action to be taken.
But I believe the question was, he asked them for assurance. That was.
I asked them for an assurance that after this
Right.
meeting, they will find out where these things are by asking the warden and then give me some type of feedback as to where they are. So my question still, as clearly stated, what prevents them, him, I believe she's there, from asking where these things are and giving us the assurances? What prevents that from happening?
They can give you that as the prison board.
That's all I need to know.
As the
So can I
prison-
get
As
that?
the prison board. they can give it. As the prison board.
So they can email me in the official
They can-
capacity as the prison board, right?
No, the prison board acts through a majority of its body, just like these individuals act as commissioners through a majority of their body. But they are not authorized as commissioners by law to act as the prison board. There's
When
a
they say
separate.
act, that means take official action, modify a policy,
Right,
make changes.
and to.
None of that is being
or
asked.
to
It's
talk
a
to a
share of
member, or to
information.
talk to a member of the public, give an assurance.
I'm not a
because-
member of the public. I work at the facility.
Or talk to you and give you an assurance on behalf of the operation of the correctional facility.
Yeah.
They don't operate it.
They can do that. It's not operating, it's sharing information. So don't
Well, we
operate.
have a difference.
I'm asking what prevents them from sharing the
Personally,
information?
I think it would be great if you got that answer. I just want to make sure the answer comes from the right.
Morally and ethically, why would that information not be shared with
Legally,
us?
the answer has to come from the people that provide it. As I told you, if there was a claim of liability,
I'm not asking about if something bad happens, I'm asking why not share the information before something happens?
it has to do with legal reasons. What I'm
What's the
telling you
reason? You're
is,
not giving it to me.
there's no problem with you being given that assurance if they can give it to you, but it should come from the prison board. That's all I'm telling you.
What I'm asking is, for me to get that, I have to go to the next prison board, then that's when I should get it?
No, I would hope that they would pass this on to the prison board members. Some of them are here. There's another one that's not here.
So a majority of them are sitting here, right?
The prison board,
Statistically, based on the
Okay.
numbers of the prison board, is the majority here. They rule by a majority
they
decision,
can't
correct?
act unless they're in a prison board meeting.
Cool, and that's on
We have to wait.
official, that's on official action. This is a sharing of information. I'm not asking for them to say it now in front of the public. I'm asking them when we leave this meeting, can I get a response? Whether it's in a commissioner capacity or a prison board capacity. A response, yes, you can. They can wait till the next prison board is what I'm saying, and sit there and talk to Gary and talk amongst themselves and say, hey, you know what? Gary, you told us these are where the weapons are. How'd you ascertain that information? Oh, I watched the
What
video.
I'm
I
telling
saw
you.
it. Now, after the meeting, then they can send an email and say, hey, we acted as an official board of the prison board. Here's where these weapons are. Can that occur?
They can give you information, certainly. They
So I'm
cannot-
asking, will I
but
get
they
it?
cannot give you an assurance because they're not the body that's
I'm
responsible.
asking, will I get the information of where these weapons are?
It's the
Will I get
question.
more than Gary Heidel saying they are accounted for without saying what that means? Will I get to know how these things were accounted for? So I can tell 100 officers, you are safe when you respond to a robocall. You don't have to worry about one of these things being fashioned into a weapon. Will I get that information? There is no protocol. There's no protocol or policy about sharing information about missing items. There's no policy, there's no protocol. It's just what you do in corrections. Call every other jail, man. It's what you do in corrections. You search for stuff, you find stuff. We still haven't searched the entire facility. We still haven't. So protocol, if we're talking about protocols and policies, when things go missing in a jail, you have to search for them. That's the protocols. We still haven't searched, so why did the search stop? There's obviously some type of assurances being made by the warden to you guys that these things are accounted for. If you guys are acting as a prison board solely on the fact that he's telling you it's accounted for, that's not enough information. So ascertain the additional information as to where they are and share it with us. Not an unreasonable request to be told, hey, this is where these things are, man. You guys are safe.
To work today to be safe. Simple as
It's
that.
not, we're making it seem like it's some massive decision that we're spending $6 million, or we're getting new weapons, or we're buying things for the jail, or we're completely changing the way this facility operates. It has to be official decisions. It's a simple, hey, you guys are safe, the weapons are over here. Don't even worry about it. All right, cool, thanks. The whole conversation's over and done. We walk away, we go back to just doing our normal job.
So there's gonna have to be some next steps, okay? And then at
What would
this
those
point,
be?
we'll have to let you know. I'm not saying, Mr. Kubik, please just understand.
I don't understand.
Well,
I've been
please,
trying to
I'm asking you
understand.
to, and we understand
We've been
what
2
you
weeks,
want.
2 weeks. 2
It's
weeks,
not-
2 weeks. We've been told, come to the
It's
prison board. What do I do?
You're not
Come
being
to
out
the
of
prison
line,
board.
you're out of line, but you're not being over the edge.
I'm not being
You're
out of
not,
line. I'm the one who has to go to work.
I
and worry about
understand.
this thing down my neck. You
Time
guys
out.
don't understand that.
please. Thank you. We have next steps that we need to help you with.
What would they be?
Let you know what we find out.
But I asked at the prison board, like I was told, I'm the prison board. I asked the same question at the prison board. So
There's
here we are,
gonna
we're
have to be
after the prison
another,
board.
there's got to be another step then.
So after I raised it at the prison board about where these weapons, did you guys have conversations with the warden after I left the executive session about where the weapons are, or did you just ignore it? But that would have been the step at that point to take your further steps to find out where they are. If I brought this to your attention at the prison board and you guys did nothing at that prison board, and now we're here 2 weeks later, you're telling me you have to go back to the prison board to ask the same question that I raised 2 weeks ago, how does that even make any sense? You guys were there 2 weeks ago when I raised the question. Was there conversations had about where these weapons are? Outside of the public, outside of us, outside of news media, did you guys have conversations? Of course you can. You can say, yeah, we had conversations about where the weapons are.
The executive session issue is not for public discussion here, particularly since this is not the
So
prison
explain to
board.
me how it makes sense that if I'm being told we have to take steps at the prison board to get this information for you, to take further steps to help you. This issue was raised at the prison board 2 weeks ago. Why were those steps not taken?
I can't speak for them.
I'm asking that, but you keep interjecting
Okay,
to speak for them, is what you're doing.
If you'll let me finish, you know, there's two sides to the conversation.
Really not when it comes to these weapons. You
Well,
guys are
if you don't want to listen, then I won't speak.
really not.
There's always two sides.
What's the side?
Well,
Gary's telling me
I'll
that
tell you,
he's
the
speaking
side
for you.
is
You said
that
you
you've got all
can't speak
these
for
prison board members here. If you want to listen, got these prison board members here. If any one of them gets on the phone with Warden Hadel after this meeting and says, I can only speak for myself, you might want to speak, Warden Hadel, to the other prison board members. And if the other prison board members collectively, they give you a direction to communicate, that doesn't take official action. He can communicate with you. But the prison board has to speak and tell him to do that. There's nothing that prevents any one of them from calling the warden up and saying, this is what I think, that you should communicate with this individual
You
here.
did that at the
I'm
prison
just-
board meeting, actually. That actually happened, because when I asked Heidel where the weapons are, he didn't answer the question for a good solid 20 seconds. He sat there red-faced. And then it had to get asked again, and then Commissioner had to ask Warden Heidel, would you like to address that? And he still sat there flabbergasted before he addressed it. So they actually asked him, does he want to address it? And he did, by saying they're accounted for.
And if the warden doesn't do something that collectively the prison board directs him to do, there can be consequences for him.
Okay, well,
Because-
I don't want consequences for him. I don't want one of us to die
Right.
and then be sitting there
But
like,
you want
man,
that,
should
you
have
want
made
that
these steps."
information. And I believe what you're indicating is the information would probably come from the warden, because he's charged with running the facility. And
Because I
hopefully,
believe he's hiding and switching
hopefully
on
he
the
knows
button.
the answer to that.
That's what it is.
and if they direct collectively him to communicate to you, I would imagine he would do that. So hopefully that will come to you.
Hopefully, nobody dies and we don't
Right.
come here and have a conversation about, hey, we should have done more with these weapons.
I think that's understood.
Yeah, but it's not acceptable that nothing is happening, and one of us might not go home and see our children because we're not doing nothing. We're just being told 2 weeks later, 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 2 weeks later. So 2 weeks
So
later,
if the warden says that they're accounted, everything's accounted for.
it's not acceptable because he's been caught in so many lies over the years, blatant lies.
That's not what,
That's where we,
that's where we stop.
Because what is so hard about it?
That-
Hey, this man's jacket is red. Am I lying? It's not. That's, so
No,
if a guy lies, we can say he's lying.
This-
Why is that such a sensitive
Mr. Kubic,
subject?
to be continued, that's it. Is there anybody else have any other discussion, public discussion?
I
Yes,
had a, I was, so I'm part of the community, I live in Strasbourg, and I work in IT for New Jersey.
May I
And
ask your name?
Jorge,
Okay, thank you.
and I noticed a couple of things within the website of the county, and I sent a couple of emails to, I believe his name is Greg, and also Patricia, to see if security of the website could be enhanced, such as there's no certificate in place right now that poses a security threat to whoever wants to sign in to the website, to whatever it is that they're doing the website. But my emails have not been responded to, so I came to you guys to see if there's anybody else that I should be able to share this information with, so that we could possibly assess what's happening there. If there's anything else within IT that could possibly be impacting at some point the community. I will be willing to help with that as part of the community. I don't want my.
Thank you. I know IT has been involved with trainings and security issues, security steps in order to protect from those kinds of things happening.
one of the things you have to understand is that the website is managed by the CCAP. Okay? It's the Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania. They host our site. And we are currently making changes in that and revamping the whole website. Okay? So there are steps being taken. that certificate then would be CCAP's certificate. So if you give me your email address, I'll send you an email and tell you what steps have been taken.
No, definitely, yeah.
Because that would be, most of the counties in the
in the state.
Commonwealth
Yeah.
Right,
are hosted by CCAP.
okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I could say. Close security.
No worries.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay, so moved at 10:12.
Thank you.